coming up. And, Tyler Bertuzzi is one of the people. The other conversation that I saw in the media recently is they're talking about who are the alternate captains going to be. So we've got
Nice transition.
to talk about.
Nice transition.
Yeah, I tried that. Well, I wanted to see which way you're going. You want to talk about prospects or you want to talk about alternate captains? Because really, quite frankly, the man who's probably impacted the most by all these things we're talking about today is Tyler Bertuzzi. All of this stuff affects him. So I'm thinking, he's one of the people that's been talked about as a potential alternate captain. And
yeah, you know what? I don't buy that.
I don't either. I don't think he's just not that guy. It's not that he isn't a valuable member of the team. And we talked about this. I mean, I think he fills a hole that, quite frankly, I don't think you got anybody else to fill at the moment. But let's look at what alternate captains do, right? I mean, you've got to demonstrate leadership because you've got to set the pace. Pace of the group is, speed of the group, speed of the leader. So you need some leadership skills. You got to be able to be a very good communicator because obviously you are the guy on the ice who's communicating with the officials. You got to really know the game, and you got to be a little bit more of a cerebral kind of a guy. And that's why Dylan Larkin fits the role for the Red Wings, and he was really probably one of the only guys that would really fit it as far as being a captain. And if you're the alternate captain, you've got to be able to step into that role if the captain can't. And Tyler can do a lot of things. He's got a lot of strengths. I wouldn't call those three of his strengths. Okay. I've talked to Tyler a couple of times, met him more than once, and obviously had some communications with him, and very, very cool, very nice guy. Great. He's a lot of fun. I love his energy. I love what he brings to the ice, but I wouldn't call Tyler a great communicator, and I wouldn't call him necessarily, beacon of leadership. Not that he couldn't lead, but he's not quite that guy. He's not an ego-driven guy, okay? And I say that in the most complimentary way. All right. Not that Dylan Larkin's got a huge ego, but I will tell you, he certainly does have a bigger ego than Tyler Bertuzzi does. But you need that. When you're a leader, you have to have a very strong sense of self. And Tyler is just not, he's just a much different kind of guy. So just in terms of fitting the mold of an alternate captain, probably not. I think one of the guys who does fit the mold almost to a T is Andrew Copp.
See, you hit it, and you hit nail on the head right there. That's what I was going with too.
Yep, I really do.
It's not just because he's from here. It's not just because he played on the line with Dylan Larkin at University of Michigan, but Andrew Copp is a guy that you would make as a team leader because he just does everything the right way. Like if you're, a lot of people they think team leaders are guys who are just outstanding point production wise, and they're leaders in scoring and all that stuff. But the real leaders are the ones that they just do everything right, and they set a good tone for the rest of the team.
Well, when you look at those elements of being a leader or being a captain, being the alternate captain, he could step right into that role. He's got the maturity. He's got the ability to communicate well. The officials respect him. Whereas Perron is more of he's a veteran, but he's a little on the sassier side, right? Let's say that. Whereas Copp's demeanor.
Plus, Copp's going to be here longer than Perron.
Absolutely, and also, Copp's demeanor is more fitting for that role. He just fits a lot of those things better. So I think he's one of the ones that makes a lot of sense. The other one that I think makes a lot of sense, and when we're talking about, they're going to name two of them, and you've got a forward as your captain, you've got another forward as an alternate. I think you got to look to a defenseman, for the other alternate captain role. And I'll tell you,
are you going the same way I'm going?
Probably. And you know what is hilarious? And here's what people need to know: Joe and I did not discuss this at all pre-show. Like I said, I did no show prep, so this is straight off the cuff. I think I might be going the same way. Do you want to say it, or should I say it, Joe?
Let's say it at the same time.
Mo Seider. Mo Seider, absolutely.
Oh my God!
Perfect. And I'll tell you why. Why I like him, and you can say why you like him. I like Andrew Kopp because he's a veteran, and he fits a lot of the skill sets that I think an alternate captain needs. The reason why Mo Sider fits it, number one, he's a defenseman. I think he's going to be with this organization long term.
Yep.
He commands respect in the locker room, even though he's a bit of a goofball. Like from his personality, he's kind of goofy.
Yeah.
I think part of that he's just a young kid, but he brings that youthful energy. I think he's a great one to maybe be a captain in waiting,
Yep.
and he's a great one he can be under the tutelage of those other two guys. And then
Yep.
when Larkin decides to move on or retire, then you've got Mo Sider who could ascend that. So it's part of a
Hand in the
like-
cuff over. It's kind of like what Zetterberg did to Larkin.
Exactly right. And Mo Sider and Dylan Larkin get along very well. They're two different types of personalities,
Obviously.
but Mo Sider, I'll tell you, but Mo Sider is a leader. He always wants to set the example. I read an article recently about him being being in the training room, and they have, I guess, some sort of a leaderboard about riding the certain kind of bicycle that they've got in there.
Yep.
And he asked about it, and the first thing he did is he jumped on that bike and made sure he was at the top of that list. That's what a leader does. He sets the pace. Mo Sider is that kind of guy. He's highly, highly competitive, and he is not a me guy. He is a we guy. We've talked about that before. And your captain has, in certain respects, can be a me guy, but they really have to be a we guy. And Mo Sider is that person. So I think of the defensemen, you take a look at who's going to be here long term. You take a look at all those various other elements, and I think just who else are you going to pick? I think Mo Sider would be a very, very smart move to choose as the other alternate. Why do you like him?
So I like Sider because he does everything the right way. One of the things that you want in a captain is, like I said with Kopp, you want someone that does everything the right way. And when people come, one of the things that is the great unknown to people is culture. When you came into the Red Wings locker room when they had Yzerman and Lidstrom and Zetterberg in that locker room, you were following their lead. Like, you weren't making your own, as a young player, you weren't making your own way that you were going to do things. You were following their way. And I think it's very, very important because, a lot of times I'll cross over in other sports, but you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, the Red Wings, those are models of consistency. Yeah, they have down years. Yeah, they do go into rebuilds. But the one thing that is always a constant with these teams and the Baltimore Ravens in the NFL is they always have the same identity. Like, they always have the same identity. And when you have a guy like Mo Sider who's learning from Larkin, Larkin learned from Zetterberg, Zetterberg learned from Lidstrom, who Lidstrom learned from Yzerman. I mean, just you're seeing the baton being passed down the line. And I think that Mo Sider he's a great player. He's got so much promise to become the best defenseman in the NHL, in my opinion. I think that him and Cal Markar are going to trade Norris trophies, to be honest, coming up soon. I think that's what's going to happen. And I think a guy like Mo Sider, you just can't put a price tag on what he brings to the team and the organization.